Right.
Yeah, buddy.
Whew. Let me get one more shot. Probably wait for another couple of people to come in. Yeah. No alcohol for you tonight?
No, I don't got any right now. It's all good, though. It's all good.
Well, you got work tomorrow. You got work tomorrow anyway. You can't drink no alcohol.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd be all right, but yeah, probably not for the best.
Yeah. Well, listen, you 27, right?
I'm 27, yeah.
27, yeah. See, back when I was your age, I could drink a whole bottle of vodka and work a 10-hour shift and be nothing. But now at 41, I take 5 shots and the next morning I have an IV in my hand. I can't do it like I used to.
I feel you, bro. Like for me, like I'm good. Like I could drink a decent amount. I typically drink tequila. And as long as I drink about a good amount of water while I'm drinking, I'm usually good. But bro, like I'll still wake up with the massive like hangover headaches, bro. The worst.
That's what I'm drinking now, tequila. And you just seen I took a swig of water first, and then you know what I'm saying. Then
that's the way to do it, bro. You got, if not, your stomach hurts, and some people are like, "Oh no, you don't got to chase it with anything." I'm like, bro, like, that's how you fuck yourself up.
Oh yeah. All right, well, we got one person here. Well, you know what? Hell with it, because this is gonna be recorded and people are gonna see it anyway. So let's just jump into it.
Yeah, bro, let's do it.
All right. So to anybody watching, I got my man Anthony A. Perez on the live with me. This is my first guest ever, first live stream without Cousin China. So Perez, welcome, man. Welcome to the live stream. Today we're gonna be talking about Star Wars. I had to have you on here because nobody loves Star Wars like you. And I've been a lifelong Star Wars fan all my life, bro. My first memory, Return of the Jedi, 3 years old. Love Star Wars forever, but I've never seen any fan devoted to this franchise like you and the knowledge that you have about Star Wars. So I had to have you on this video. And what really made me want to have you on here also and talk about this is because I finished Clone Wars from your recommendation. You said, bro, you got to watch Clone Wars and then watch Rebels. And I watched Clone Wars with little to no expectations. And man, by the time it was over with, I was in my feelings. I was going to do a solo video, but I said, nah, I just wouldn't do it justice. I have to talk about this with somebody. And down here in Butt Scratch and Sanford, where I live at, nobody wants to talk Star Wars with me. So I got you now. Thank you for putting me on this show. And thank you for restoring my faith in the Force. I was losing it, bro. Rise of Skywalker hurt my feelings.
Yeah, man.
Huh?
It's one of those things I was going to just say, and I made a comment about it in one of my recent videos, is like, we're in this time now more so than ever where there's just so much Star Wars coming out, right? And when I was a kid, the Phantom Menace came out when I was 6 years old, man. I went to go see that movie. I loved Darth Maul. I loved Jar Jar Binks. I wasn't part of the adult conversation of like the years of anticipation with the original trilogy leading up into the Phantom Menace and stuff. I just loved those movies. Star Wars for me on an overall, those 6 films were like just a dream come true for me. So whenever I met anybody who didn't like them, I was just kind of blown away. And now that I've grown up a little bit more and we've gotten way more movies and we've gotten animated shows and live action shows where I'm like, all right, sometimes certain installments, certain stories just ain't going to do it for everybody. You know what I mean? But what I love about this universe is that when one thing doesn't work for you, or maybe one thing's a little bit subpar in your eyes compared to something else, there's always going to be that other thing that comes in and is able to kind of restore the faith a little bit. For right now, for a lot of people, that's The Mandalorian, which I'm sure you can agree with. But it's great to be able to have kind of got you to check out the Clone Wars, man, because it's one of those things that I think a lot of people, they start watching it or they kind of see it and they instantly think, oh, cartoon, goofy, I don't really like it, especially with the first season. That's a little bit more on the younger audience side of things, with some fun episodes in the mix. But it really isn't until you get deeper into the show that it becomes this like really well-written Star Wars show that doesn't dumb down the dialogue for kids. There's some goofy elements, some goofy, silly, fun Star Wars elements to it. But they really flesh out the political mumbo jumbo of what's happening in the galaxy and really giving you a really good understanding of how vast and how big the Clone Wars was, and like stuff that I think the prequel films were just not able to flesh out in 3 movies that were also trying to specifically tell a story about Anakin Skywalker. the Clone Wars just gives you that ability to just flesh things out, man. And yeah, I think a lot of people kind of share your sentiment on the Rise of Skywalker, but I think it's great to hear that you were able to visit the Clone Wars for the first time and kind of get this new taste of Star Wars in a different direction,
Yeah, definitely. And I tell you what, I already like the prequels. I'm not one of those that shits on the prequels. I mean, I had my opinions about Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones and whatnot, but overall, I love the prequels. You know what I'm saying? It belongs up there with the original trilogy. I watch them as a whole. But watching this show, by the time it was over with, I just found a new appreciation for the prequels. And like you said, it fleshes everything out. And even Anakin's turn to the dark side. Spoilers, but we all know Anakin becomes Vader. But yeah, his turn to the dark side, it really makes it more heartbreaking because when we see him as a kid, he's this cute little kid who was kind of annoying because the actor wasn't the best actor in the world. And then you cut to him when he's older, he's a brat pretty much. He's a whiny brat. He's kind of arrogant, full of himself. He knows how powerful he is. And he just comes across as a whiny little bitch in episode 2 with some of the worst dialogue ever with him and Padme. That's like cringeworthy. And then fast forward to Revenge of the Sith, there was nothing about Anakin that said, okay, he was a good guy. There's no way he can turn bad. You see it from the beginning of Revenge of the Sith, the constant, frowning and mean mugging. You could tell from the jump, oh, he's a bad day away from being evil.
Yeah.
One bad day, So when I watched the Clone Wars, bro, there was I forgot that he was going to become Vader because he was such a badass. He was charismatic. He was likable. I really liked his character on the show. So even though we didn't see his turn in the last 4 episodes, but just knowing what happens when you finally see him in full Vader getup, I'm like, shit, this was a guy that I've been following for 6 seasons that I really liked, and now seeing him like that, because you can kind of see his eyes when he picked up Ahsoka's lightsaber and he was looking up, you could see his eyes through the helmet, and I'm like, God damn, it hit me a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. Which is a great call to I don't know if you noticed, but it's just the whole thing where you can see his eyes, which is a kind of a reference to A New Hope, because in A New Hope, in every single one of the Star Wars movies, Vader's suit is a little bit different, and in some of the comics and books, they kind of touch on how he does have different suits. He's not always in the same, like it all looks the same, but there's slight variations to them.
Right.
And they did, obviously they were working on a more limited budget for A New Hope back in the day, and there are multiple shots in A New Hope where you can see through Vader's goggles and see his eyes, which was more of a mistake, more of like they weren't able to like blacken them out the way that they kind of intended to, and the way they kind of did with Empire and Return of the Jedi. But I love that Clone Wars kept that continuity, you know what I mean, where you can kind of see through his goggles a little bit there at the end. But yeah, man, I think the Clone Wars does such a great job of giving you this different interpretation of Anakin. Kind of just being able to see him be the everyday Jedi that he was, but also see that he was this character who questions things, that he was this character that didn't really, not everything about the Jedi Order sat right with him. You know what I mean? And he also got to see some certain characters like Obi-Wan, who we've always seen as like this very rigid follower of the Jedi Order and their rules. We've also got to see him kind of waver a little bit, with his romance for Satine, the attachment he had for Satine, and the weakness that kind of brought him. The weakness, I say that in the way that the Jedi view it. You know what I mean? Like the idea of attachment being this weakness, this thing that can lead you to the dark side. When that episode, I mean, I'm assuming we're touching on spoilers, kind of, but the episode where Satine is killed in that moment where Obi-Wan is holding her, you know what I mean? Like I think that the show just did a great job of really fleshing out these characters and giving us so much more context to where they go. You know what I mean? I think that's kind of the joy of Star Wars as well. Is like it's never been linear. You know what I mean? Star Wars has always been about like, let's jump around and kind of see these stories and how we can kind of flip things around in a different direction when characters are kind of in certain situations, or we get to see a situation that we already know, but from a different stance and a different position of the story. I really thoroughly enjoy that. So to be able to kind of see these characters prior to where we already know where they go. We already know where they end up. We already know where the tragedy that's going to come and the good stuff that's going to come. But to be able to see that fall for Anakin, because even specifically, I remember when I showed my girlfriend the Clone Wars, she was loving it. And one of the things she said as we were watching it, specifically on those episodes as well that you were texting me through, where Anakin is so jealous of Padme with everything going on with Clovis.
Yeah.
You can see like there is like, where he's coming, I think you told me, I can't remember exactly what you said, but you said he almost had like a black moment, like a black man moment, like that he was just gonna like he was about to pimp slap Padme, and there's this hilarious moment where he's getting super jealous, and it kind of comes off like very creepy and very like demanding, very like manipulative, you know what I mean? And so it's those moments where it's like, he's just being a jealous guy, jealous boyfriend, but there is this sprinkling of his character throughout his entire journey where that his emotions and his attachments just always kind of cause him to be a little worrisome, you know what I mean? Like there's definitely red flags all across his entire time.
Oh yeah. Listen, the part that I really laughed at was when Padme was in jail, right? And he had to come get her, and he walked in. He was, he was kind of smiling and kind of like, all right, let's go. And when she said, "Yeah, Clovis is helping me," Clovis is that's what I'm saying his name, right?
Yeah.
Clovis, like, what do you need his help for? She's like, no, because he's like, no, how come every time you talking about, he's helping you, it's because of this. You know what? I should leave you here. And then maybe he started walking out, and she says, Annie, come on before I change my mind. I said, oh man, like he had a real nigga moment right there. And when he walked in, I messaged you too. When he walked in and Clovis was about to kiss Padme, and Anakin walked in, I paused it. And I text you, I said, oh, shit. It's about to go down. And did it. He beat him within an inch of his life. He had to catch himself because he was fucking him up with that metal, with that the metal hand. And Padme had to stop him. And I said, yeah, he almost killed this motherfucker.
Yeah, I mean, he has so many moments like that. And I love that in the final season, in the Bad Batch episodes, I think it's like in the last episode of the Bad Batch, he's coming across that guy. I can't remember his name off the top of my head right now, but it's like the spider guy that's part of the Separatists.
Oh yeah.
And he's like there with him alone, and he's like, bro, you're a Jedi, you ain't gonna do shit. And he's like, watch, and he stabs him right in the chest, looks him in the eyes, and said, I don't know who you think you're talking to, but like I don't care about this Jedi title. And that just always goes to show his character was always a little bit kind of. Yeah, you know what I mean? There's this creepiness to him. I think that the Attack of the Clones even touches on it. Like you can see the tricklings of what George's vision for his character was. Right. But I just think that the movies just didn't give the opportunity to flesh it out, not nearly as much as like what they did with like the original trilogy or even the sequel trilogy. I think that the sequel trilogy did a better job of fleshing out the character of Rey. Now, some people would say, "Oh, that's blasphemy," but I think it's. If you're just looking at like a point A to point B kind of situation, I think that Anakin, his turn to the dark side is a bit abrupt. Whenever I've shown Star Wars to somebody, people always think I'm blasphemous for doing this, that it's like heresy. But I always show people Star Wars chronologically nowadays. People are always like, oh, you should watch it like in original release order because of the Darth Vader reveal. But I'm just like, I always sit somebody down and I always ask, when we're going to start, I always go, what do you know about Star Wars? They're like, I know Darth Vader, I know Luke Skywalker, I know Stormtroopers, I know Chewbacca, R2D. Like they know some of these basic things that are iconic of the franchise. And the one thing they always say is that they know that Vader is Luke Skywalker's his father. So that reveal is typically already done for people. So I'll sit them through it the other way around, because I always feel the reveal that most people don't know, if they're watching it from the prequels into the original trilogy, is Darth Vader's name. They don't know that he's Anakin Skywalker. So I can't tell you how many times I've shown Star Wars to people with the prequels first, and that they're really into Anakin. Like, they might think that some of the dialogue is here and there, but they don't have like the expectations of having seen the original and everybody telling them that the prequels are this ass portion of the franchise that like, oh yeah, I gotta go watch the prequels now. Like they just kind of get to watch it fresh. So I can't tell you, I love showing people like the Phantom Menace, and then they see it and they go, yeah, that was pretty good, I liked it, and then I'm like, well, good, I'm glad you liked it, because that's the one that people tend to say is the worst one in the franchise, and then they're usually like, oh really, okay, cool. So then they're looking forward to what's next. And then when they get to, I'll never forget, I watched the first two Star Wars movies Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones with my friends back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
And they were hyped on them. They really, really liked them. And at the time, I was already like the Star Wars guy to them. They already knew where I stood. Like I was a teenager at the time too, so I had my room filled with nothing but posters. Like literally, there was like this much space in between the posters on the wall. Star Wars everywhere. And they would come in, and I remember we watched the first two, and they loved them. And then they walked into my room. And they were looking at my posters, and they go, "I just can't wait for that guy to show up." And they pointed at Vader on like all the posters. And meanwhile, they don't know that that's what's happening. And then when we watch Revenge of the Sith, and there's that great moment where Anakin's starting to turn, they're like, "What's going on?" And then when Palpatine says, "Henceforth you shall be known as Darth Vader," the reaction is always fantastic. You know what I mean? Like people are always either really heartbroken, like, "Oh my God, he was my favorite," or they're always kind of shocked about it. And I think that part of that is also the fact that the movies, I don't think he just kind of makes a left turn. You know what I mean? Like one second he's this nice guy. That's so funny. The Obi-Wan Kenobi popped up in here. Hello there.
Hello there. You can't help but read it back in his voice, right?
I love it. Like that's my favorite meme of all time. I love that in the holiday special, the Lego one that they just put out, there was the 3 different Obi-Wans, and they were all like, "Hello there, hello there, hello there." Love that.
Well, yeah, that's another thing. That's another thing too. Like in New Hope, which I watched today with my kids. In the prequels, we never got to see like that Anakin, because he was like, he was the best starfighter in the galaxy, and he was a cunning warrior, like he painted him to be like this badass, which he kind of was. But like I said, in Attack of the Clones, he was a whiny little bitch, and in Revenge of the Sith, he was just brooding all the time. You know what I'm saying? He was always in a bad mood. You saw him probably crack a smile like maybe twice. Him and Obi-Wan had that moment that they shared before they never saw each other again until they fought. You know what I mean? But I've watched it 3 ways. Okay, I watched it linear, 1 through 6. Then I watched it 4 through 6, and then 1, 2, 3. And then I remember I messaged you last year. You probably don't remember, but I said I watched it machete style, and I could feel the heat through Messenger. You're like, no, you don't watch it like that. So machete style is 4, 5, 2, 3, and then 6.
Yeah, I guess for me, what always breaks my heart about that is that so many people are just so adamant on throwing out the Phantom Menace. And for me, I think a part of it for me, and I always can be honest about it, is that Phantom Menace was my first ever live, like in theater, experience. I saw it midnight screening. My family was always a big Star Wars fans, and my mom's a huge Star Wars fan. Like we always go to the conventions together. I have cousins who are like diehard Star Wars fans, and I kind of learned from them. So my family was always ingrained with Star Wars. So we went to the midnight premieres, and I remember going to see the Phantom Menace, and it was this epic experience for me at 6 years old. And at that point, I already had seen the original trilogy multiple times, but what I didn't really, I didn't really grasp all the themes and all the connections and all the political mumbo jumbo. But the Phantom Menace was just a fun time for me. I saw that movie like 15 times in theaters when it came out back in the day.
He was 6 years old. Okay,
yeah,
he was a good friend. Well, these negotiations aren't very sure. Damn it, is this Obi-Wan Kenobi really on the chat?
But no, I love the Phantom Menace, and people always just want to cut it out of the watch or act like it's just completely like this, like almost like the handicap of the Star Wars franchise. And I think by far it's not the worst film in the franchise. At least for me, I would say my least favorite in the whole series, like on an overall level, would maybe be. I mean, the Phantom Menace is down there compared to other ones. There's just no getting around that. I mean, when you have Empire and Return and A New Hope, and even like Revenge of the Sith is one of my favorites. The Force Awakens. Whatever your thoughts on Rey and those characters and where it went, and the Force Awakens maybe being too similar to A New Hope. I think that the Force Awakens was like an amazing return to Star Wars. I think it was exciting. It was entertaining. It's well paced. You're never bored while watching it. It keeps a good flow. Blacktastic there saying that 4, 5, and 6 are his faves.
Blacktastic was good, bro.
Good times, man. Those movies are incredible.
Yeah. Hey, Blacktastic, look here. I know when I messaged you about doing that Eddie Murphy, Richard Pryor video, I know I said I was drinking, but I haven't forgot. We still got to do that video, okay? He's probably like, man, that nigga was drunk, man. We ain't doing that video. Yes, I remember talking about that. So we still got to do that video.
Yeah,
but 4, 5, and 6 are my faves. Yeah.
Yeah, Blacktastic and I are about to do. Well, he already sent it to me. I gotta get it up. Nightmare on Elm Street 5, Dream Child. Gonna be doing that with Blacktastic. I was gonna do it with Q, but then he told me he's got some work going on, so just to move on. But yeah, I'm looking forward to dropping that video.
Yeah, but yeah, well, you know what? Yeah, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, 4, 5, and 6 are definitely my favorites. But as far as lightsaber fights, now my son, especially my son, he's used to the lightsaber battles. So we watched Phantom Menace on my projector, and I gotta say, Phantom Menace was down there for me too. But when I watched it on my wall, it brought me back to when I watched it in the theater for the first time, and I had like a whole different experience. I'm like, this is what I remember. Like, I love this shit. So I have a new appreciation for Phantom Menace. And my son, when he saw Darth Maul, he was like, so he's used to the fast-paced lightsaber battles. And then you go to New Hope.
Yeah.
You can't win, Darth. You can strike me down and I'll become more powerful than you could possibly imagine.
Yeah. And funny enough, man, I think that part of what makes A New Hope so charming to me is like, but beyond it having this great story, and it's what always blows my mind is what George Lucas got right on that first movie. Really think about that. Yeah. Not only in the characters, but in the music that he worked with John Williams to get, like everything from what that movie set in stone of what Star Wars would be, in the clothing, the ships, the design, the entire team that worked on Star Wars, that original Star Wars film, was just top notch. The costume design, the character design, the Ralph McQuarrie concept art that is still referenced today. Like anytime they make new Star Wars stuff, they want to make it look like that Ralph McQuarrie old school style. Like he got just to know that he drew those images based on his discussions with George, and that he nailed everything that Star Wars is visually, even if they did something different with certain character designs. Right. He nailed what Star Wars was visually with those initial concept art designs. John Williams' score, again, the costume design, the look, the tone, the feel, the vibe, the fact that George Lucas chose to keep Vader alive at the end of that first, the end of Episode 4, because the story is that he was trying to get that movie made, and so many studios turned him down, and then eventually they said yes. Somebody said yes, but like just what he got right in that first movie, leaving Vader alive, the setup of the Emperor and these subtle like things that would go on to create something so massive. I mean, what George Lucas got right with that first film is unprecedented, and it blows my mind whenever I think of that movie. But with that said, you do have those weaker lightsaber battle. You do have some weaker effects in the franchise, and those don't take away. That doesn't take away from the beauty of the film for me. Right. But what always reminds me, whenever people are like completely shitting on the new stuff, it's like there's still that shot in the movie where the stormtroopers are walking through the doorway and the warm stormtrooper bumps his head on the door. It's still in the movie. The sound effect is still there. You know what I mean? And if you take away any of the special edition add-ons, because there's a discussion to be made there about what works and what doesn't work as far as the special edition add-ons. But that is in the original cut of the film. The stormtrooper that bumps his head. That's not a special edition add-on. And that for me just always reminds me, when everybody is like destroying these new movies, I'm like, listen, there's no, whatever your thoughts on the story and expectations, sure, there's a discussion to be had there. But the effects, I mean, not the effects, the mistakes, the little things the part about Star Wars that makes it so fun and charming is it was never perfection. Star Wars was never about perfection. It was about what these movies, the characters, the music, what it made you feel like. It made you feel like a kid out in the sandbox playing, I'm going to be Han Solo. I'm going to be Luke Skywalker. That's what it was all about. And I don't know. That's what A New Hope always kind of reminds me of, is like that how many flaws, little mistakes are in it. But it's still such a fantastic film, and it doesn't take away from its fantasticness.
Oh yeah. And to be honest with you, I saw New Hope last. So I saw Empire Strikes Back first. I was like, I was around 3 years old. I saw Empire Strikes Back first. Then my pops took me to see Return of the Jedi, and I think it was a little bit later when I saw New Hope. You know what I'm saying? So I saw that last. And I remember liking that the least because Empire Strikes Back was like the greatest thing ever. I had the whole collection. I had the Darth Vader case with all the toys and everything. My pop got me the soundtrack where Yoda was on the Dagobah, on the sticker. And then Return of the Jedi just really blew me away. Like, my pop took me to see that like 3 times, man. So yeah, New Hope. Growing up, New Hope was always my least favorite. And I did go to see the special edition when it came out in '97. I was in high school at the time. I was a senior. And when they redid the battle of what was it called, Yavin or whatever. When they added, I mean, because if you watch the original theatrical cut, some of the effects are kind of suspect, you know what I'm saying? But it's 1977, yeah. So when he polished it up and made it look good, I thought the special edition worked. My only complaint about the special edition was Jabba. I think they could have left the Jabba scene out entirely. That's just me,
Yeah,
but,
no, worse. I think that's my least favorite special edition change of the entire original trilogy. I would say that the second one for me, like if there was an original trilogy like change, because like people always are always like, oh man, I prefer Yub Nub. It's like the ending of Return of the Jedi. Which, don't get me wrong, that was the version I knew. Like I own the original trilogy like 7 times. I have the original. I have the original VHSs. I have the special edition VHSs. I got the DVDs. I got the Blu-rays. I got all that jazz.
Right.
And in the original VHS tapes, man, that Yub Nub at the end of Return of the Jedi, that was the finale. That was the finality, that we just needed. But I think the one that they ended up adding in the current version, like the music that plays at the end, even when they show us kind of some shots of some of the prequel locations, kind of just showing us a little bit more celebration in the galaxy after the Palpatine's been killed. I think that the current song that they have is really good, but I would say the worst special edition change outside of Jabba is in Return of the Jedi, where they added the song Jedi Rocks. It's just literally what the song is called.
Jabba's Palace, right? Yeah.
And Jabba's Palace, where you have these 2 CGI characters coming in now. Yeah. I like it because it's just like, again, it just leans into like what I love about Star Wars. It's not perfection, it's silly, it's goofy, it's fun, it's wizards in space with laser swords. But yeah, no, I would say the Jabba one is really bad, because I think what makes the Jabba one even worse than it just being like an effect that doesn't look great is that when they shot it with like a fat guy that was supposed to be Jabba initially. And when Han walks behind him, they like digitally like made it where like it looks like he steps on Jabba's tail and walks over him, but it just looks so bad. Like even to this day, it's like, oh man, that's like the weakest part for sure.
Oh yeah. Yeah, Black Tasker says Return of the Jedi just had the perfect ending for the Star Wars saga for me. All right, yeah. I'm gonna piggyback off of that. So I'm gonna try not to, because I know how you feel about the Disney trilogy. But my daughter says this also. My daughter's 15. Yeah, my daughter's 15, and so we watched all of them, right? We watched episodes 1 through 6, and by the end of Return of the Jedi, both of us are like, in tears. You know what I'm saying? It because the whole thing with Vader turning back to Anakin, and when Luke had to burn him, and it was just so epic the way Return of the Jedi ended, and we both was like, it should have ended right there. That should have been the end of the Skywalker saga. To me personally. Now, Force Awakens, like you said, I think it was a great reintroduction back into Star Wars again, because I loved Force Awakens when I first saw it. I said, holy shit. When I saw the Falcon for the first time in years, I lost my mind. But Return of the Jedi should have been it as far as the Skywalker saga, Now, if you want to go into other Star Wars stories, like, like they're doing now with Mandalorian, Rebels, Clone Wars, yeah, I'm down with that. But leave the Skywalker saga alone. I think it ended perfectly the way it was. You bring in Rey and Finn, who I talk shit about Finn, but in all fairness, it's not his fault. It's the way his character was written. So I guess he looked at the screenplay. All he saw was Rey. Okay, page 3, Finn. Rey. Okay, page 5, Finn. Rey. It's just Rey. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, Return of the Jedi should have ended right there, man.
Yeah, I totally agree. I said it in my review for The Rise of Skywalker when it came. I knew going into it that it had big shoes to fill as far as being the finale to the Skywalker saga. I think that it's a testament to how great the Return of the Jedi is when it, even with the addition of the prequel trilogy, it almost added weight to the finale of Return of the Jedi. Like it didn't feel cheapened. It didn't feel like it kind of didn't give the finality to that trilogy as well. It feels like I feel like Return of the Jedi was the perfect ending to all 6 movies, and I just knew that there was no way that Rise of Skywalker was going to be able to do that. Now, I do like how Rise of Skywalker ended. I do like what they did with a lot of it. There's definitely things to be. I think my biggest gripe with the Rise of Skywalker is Palpatine's return, and not because it can't work. Look at Darth Maul. He is the perfect character who died and returned, that his story was better than anything that had happened before. And I think with Palpatine, by the time we got Rise of Skywalker, we already had his time in the Clone Wars animated series. We already had the prequel trilogy. We already had his time in the OT. And for Ian McDiarmid to have played him when he was younger, like for him to have played him when he was younger in the original trilogy, and then he was the perfect age to play him as Chancellor Palpatine leading into the Emperor. It all just worked out so seamlessly with the way they chose to film the movies that for me it was like, okay, like his story is wrapped up. And so for them to have brought him back felt cheap. And then the whole thing of like, it was like another one of his, like it was supposed to be his son that was the father to Rey, but then the Star Wars novelization of the movie, which typically it will expand a little bit on the movie with like little moments of dialogue and little things, but and is considered canon. The novelization confirmed that the Palpatine that we saw was in the Rise of Skywalker was a clone. So it wasn't even the original. The Palpatine that we knew from before, he really did get thrown off of the edge of down into the Death Star and died. Like that version of him really did die. But in the old books and comics, they had touched on the ability to send your consciousness into another body. So that's kind of touches on the whole thing with Snoke and maybe the ability to kind of send his consciousness into other bodies. But that almost cheapens it a little bit more for me. Not because it's possible to do that, but because of the fact that it's like, it's just like this decrepit clone of Palpatine that the movie never really explains. That's the situation, but he's supposed to be her grandfather. And it just feels like one of my things that I was the most excited for when people were bitching about the Last Jedi and the fact that Kylo Ren killed Snoke so early into the trilogy. I was honestly thrilled about it, not because I didn't like Snoke, but because when I saw Snoke in The Force Awakens and when I saw him in The Last Jedi, as much as I enjoyed his character and I liked Andy Serkis as him, I couldn't help but feel like he's just Emperor 2.0. And I felt like the creators behind it knew that. So I was like, let's just get rid of this guy now. And so I was so excited going into The Rise of Skywalker for Kylo Ren to have been the main villain. Like he should have been supreme leader. That's it. He is the big bad. That's it. No bad guy in the background. I think that's really where they missed an opportunity, was to make, because Adam Driver is a fantastic actor. We've seen it time and time again in other movies. And I think that The Rise of Skywalker kind of took away from that opportunity for him to have been the main villain, and for that back and forth with him and Rey to have been a little bit more powerful, rather than it kind of being mediated by this other puppet kind of villain in the story. So that's kind of my thoughts on that. I just feel like it just made for a cluttered finale that was supposed to be a finale to the trilogy as well as a finale to 9 films. And I think that Return of the Jedi just did that way better before they even knew they were going to make more trilogies.
Yeah, it wrapped it up perfectly. And as far as Palpatine goes, like, okay, so when Darth Maul's resurrection, I think the reason why it was acceptable was because Maul in Phantom Menace was just pretty much a Sith ninja. There was really nothing to his character. He was badass. He was badass looking. You knew nothing about his character really. So for them to bring him back, they gave him like a whole story, a whole arc and all that. So I think that's why it worked. And like you said, Palpatine has been there since Empire, Clone Wars, Jedi, and what really made it insulting to me to see him in Rise of Skywalker was it takes away from Vader's arc. You know what I'm saying? How Vader, all of this that happened bad to Vader was because of Palpatine, because of Sidious. And so when he threw him over the ledge, that should have been it. Like, okay, Vader, the prophecy is fulfilled. Anakin brought balance to the Force. He destroyed the Emperor, got his humanity back, got his family back. That should have been the end of it. So to bring back Palpatine like he's Freddy Krueger, I think it kind of took away from what Anakin did in Return of the Jedi. And, I think it just kind of shits on Anakin's arc, if you ask me.
Yeah. I've definitely heard that criticism, and I don't know that I necessarily fully agree, but I can totally see that mentality
Yeah.
because I feel like at the end of the day, I always feel weird about the Palpatine thing. You know, like there's been a couple because I'm pretty accepting with Star Wars. I think at this point, because I've read so many of the books and the comics, and I've watched everything that can be watched of Star Wars, I'm pretty accepting of weird stuff that can happen or connections or these, resurrections. It's, Maul is not the first or the last that's done it. And we've seen it so many times. So I'm always accepting to see what happens. And there's been these handful of things that have always made me weird about Star Wars moving into them. And some of them I feel better about them after the fact, like Alden Ehrenreich as Solo. Really was worried about that leading up to it. I was so against the film mentally. I had never felt that way about a Star Wars movie because it just felt wrong. But I've seen the movie a billion times since, and I really grew to enjoy his younger version of Han the same way I kind of can appreciate Ewan McGregor or Hayden Christensen as these younger versions of these characters we know.
Right.
But the Palpatine thing, even after it's funny. It's like the opposite effect because I was in Chicago for Star Wars Celebration. I was in the panel when Stephen Colbert came out with J.J. Abrams and Kathleen Kennedy and John Boyega, Daisy Ridley, the whole cast. I was there in that room, in this arena. I was up at the top, and we were waiting. I waited an hour in line for hours to get into this panel, and they showed us the trailer at the end, that first trailer with Rey, where she's like kind of like she turns around really quickly and she does the whole backflip over.
Oh, yeah, that was badass.
Saber or over his ship and slices it. I was so hyped, bro. I wish you could have been in that room because it doesn't even matter what your thoughts on the movie were. The excitement, the visceral energy of everybody just seeing these clips for the first time with the cast and the audience. And that's not the first time. I've been to a lot of those panels. I've waited in line for a long time to be in some of these panels for Star Wars Celebration. But it was so incredible. And then we hear that voice at the end, we hear Palpatine's laugh at the end, and everybody, I mean, dude, the auditorium, the erupted in applause. Everybody jumped up and went crazy. And then 3 seconds later, Ian McDiarmid comes out on stage and everybody loses their shit again. And then it gets quiet and he's like, roll it again. And they play the trailer again. And it was amazing, dude. It was so powerful. It was so amazing. Yeah. Everybody was hyped. I was incredibly hyped. So then to go into the movie and then to feel like, oh man, they just didn't nail Palpatine's return for me.
Right.
It was so disappointing.
Yeah, well, okay, I'll give Rise of Skywalker this. The one thing I will give her credit for, that trailer. That trailer is what made my daughter want to watch Star Wars. She's known all her life that I love Star Wars, but she never took any interest in it. She always like, I don't want to watch that. But we went to go see Joker. We were sitting like kind of up close because, I can't see. So we were like up on the screen. The trailer before Joker, and she was like, I want to see that. And I was like, really? She said, yeah. So then she was like, can I watch the other Star Wars movies? I said, my daughter. I said, daughter, I love you, So, I will give it that, if it wasn't for that trailer, she wanted to watch Star Wars. Blacktastic. That score in the background when Vader and Luke was fighting at the end of the movie. What?
Top notch.
Man, look, I can remember being a kid this high, snot nose. My pop rented that shit at the video store. We rewound that part over and over again, damn near to the tape popped. That part was just so epic.
Yeah.
That's
a great moment.
Yeah, the original trilogy, even though the lightsaber battles were not that great, but just the meaning behind them and what the fight stood for made the fight memorable. You know what I mean? It wasn't so much of the choreography and how it was just what the fight stood for. And so the big reveal of Vader being Luke's pops, that fucked a lot of people up when that first happened. Even in Jedi, that wasn't the best choreographed fight either, but just the fact that Luke is finally, standing up and defeating Vader, who was like unbeatable in all these movies, and he finally defeats him. That was the shit back then.
Yeah, the weight of the story is there, man. That's really what it's about compared to and I think that the sequel trilogy did a better job of kind of lacing in some of that fast-paced action that we see from the prequel, but with a little bit more heart and depth. And I'm a huge fan of anime, and anime does what the original Star Wars trilogy did very well, where it's like you got all these badass characters whooping each other's ass, and they take a moment when their swords are kind of like locked up and they're eye to eye just to talk shit for a moment, and then they kick some ass again, and then they'll say some more lines of dialogue, and that kind of makes these big fantasy epic fights enjoyable. That's why that fight between Obi-Wan and Vader, no matter how cheesy the fight itself is, the reason it's so memorable is because of those lines of dialogue that they throw back and forth to each other. You know what I mean? Like that's really what makes those moments work. And even the Clone Wars does a good job of that, man. Like there's some great fights in that series that are heavily reliant on the dialogue. One fight specifically that we talked about that just stands out, and I just love the dialogue because the fear on one side of characters you wouldn't expect to be fearful and kind of like the intimidation is when Palpatine shows up to Mandalore to come fuck up Maul and Savage. Like he just shows up and like the dialogue and seeing the fear in Maul after him being so cocky for all this time. Oh, so great, dude.
Yeah, it just showed the badassery of Sidious. Like we see Darth Sidious in his full fucking form, and I'm like, this guy is almost invincible, man.
Pretty much.
And if you talk about characters that I would like resurrected, I call him Savage. Savage, it sounds too French for me. I say Savage Opress. I like Savage Opress. He was like the Incredible Hulk version of Darth Maul. I hated when he died, man. I'm like, can we bring him back? You know what I'm saying? But I think probably the most savage line of any lightsaber battle was when Ahsoka fought Darth Maul. They going at it, right? So then Maul kind of was getting the best of her, but then she was clapping back. And then there was a part where he took away one of her lightsabers, and then it came to her, and she caught it right, and she was like, good thing Anakin didn't show up. Fighting like that, you wouldn't have lasted long anyway. I said, oh, shit.
Those whole final 4 episodes, man, of the Clone Wars are easily some of the best Star Wars ever put to screen. Right. And I just love even the subtle moments, man, like beyond like the cool action and like the connections to the movies and stuff like that. That's all great. I love just like how serious they really set things up to be. Like one moment that I really love in those final episodes. I can't remember. I think it's on the third to last episode or the second to last episode. I can't remember. It's one of those last episodes.
Yeah.
It's after Ahsoka beats Maul and they catch him. And they have him hanging by wire from like one of the Republic ships, and he's just screaming like, "We're all dead! Like all of us, we're all fucked. We're all dead!" Like, and he's just screaming like just like to the top of his lungs about it. I just love that moment. He just knows what's coming. He knows how everything's gonna go south, and oh yeah, bro, it's so good. I also love that. I also love that we got the brief little connection to Solo. I don't know if you caught it, but there's a moment. It's during the one of the episodes where Ahsoka's with those 2 sisters, where she's sneaking around and like somebody, the leader of the Pikes, is talking to Maul hologram, and there's a few other people that pop up, and one of them is Paul Bettany's character, the villain from Solo. Just kind of interconnecting. Yeah, one of them is him, and it's kind of interconnecting this, the crime syndicates, which is why, we know that in Solo, Bettany's character is like afraid. He's like, who I work for, and then at the end we find out that it's Maul. I like that they gave us a little bit more connection to Solo.
I didn't catch that. You know why? I didn't catch that because those episodes I was kind of checking out a little bit. I'll be honest with you. I'm keeping 100, bro. All right. That last season,
you gotta.
Huh? I thought you said something. Yeah, the last 4 episodes should have just been the last season. You know what I'm saying?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, not okay. I'm gonna take that back. The Bad Batch episodes I did like. I did like the Bad Batch episodes. When they got to the sisters, I was like, this shit is boring. Oh shit, you kind of froze. Uh-oh. Oh shit, can you hear me? Oh man, what happened? Uh-oh. You the screen kind of froze, man.
Yeah, you were lagging a little bit. I was following you what you were saying, but there was a little bit of a lag. Gotta love the live stream technical issues.
Yeah, right. But okay, well, what's the last thing you heard? Because I guess I kind of went out a little bit.
Oh, you were just saying that that you liked the Bad Batch episodes, but that the sister episodes you were bored with.
Yeah, it was boring. Like I found myself, okay, so I'm watching it, right? So I'm like, the next thing you know, I got my phone and I'm like, okay, sisters. But at first, I was happy to see Ahsoka. You know, I was like, okay, Ahsoka's back, cool. And then within a few minutes, I'm like, can we get to the good stuff? And those last 4 episodes, they more than delivered.
They really did. You could tell that, like those
Bad Batch episodes in the last 4.
Yeah. Those last 4 episodes were pure, like, just they could have been a movie in and of itself.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know what I mean? Especially with that old, like, Lucasfilm limited release kind of like logo. The comment from Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I thoroughly enjoy. I thoroughly enjoyed the final season, and what I think I really liked about those episodes with the sisters, even though those sisters were annoying and dumb, like I think that was the biggest thing, is the characters, the sisters. You had the really arrogant, cocky one who felt like she knew everything, and then you had the one who was on the complete opposite side of the spectrum, incredibly naive and didn't know enough. You know what I mean? Like, especially when she like just decides to dump the spices out into space during hyperspace. It's like there were just so many moments where I just wanted to slap those sisters. But what I like about those episodes is that it does a good job of setting up the whole, like, kind of letting Ahsoka hear from outside perspective how other people kind of viewed the Jedi as like these characters that kind of meddled in affairs and kind of came and they kind of did things like if they were heroes, but they would kind of leave behind like this just devastation in their path. And you know, it was, and they've had this negative outlook on Jedi, and then Ahsoka, who's not even a Jedi technically anymore, was able to kind of show them what it is to be a Jedi. You know what I mean? And I think that's kind of like the beauty of her character, is that after the events of the end of the 5th season, where, you know, she chooses to leave the Jedi Order, her character in almost every single way, especially when you get into Rebels and she shows up and stuff, like her character is so great at being pure Jedi. Like, if anything, she is more Jedi than most Jedi that Star Wars has ever introduced. But then she's not a Jedi, and I almost feel like her having left the Jedi Order and just who she is as a person, I just think that her character development is just top notch, man. Even before you even have seen Rebels, to really flesh it out even more, the Clone Wars just does such a great job. I think she's one of the best developed characters in the entirety of the series.
Oh, dude! After Clone Wars, Ahsoka Tano is easily one of my favorite characters now. I thought she was just so bad. I mean, she was cute in the beginning. Like, in the beginning of the show, she's almost like this cute little kid who was Anakin's little sidekick, and but then by the end, she's just a total badass, man. And I really like the character. And and I want to touch on that too. So I was in my feelings that episode where she left the Jedi Order, and I totally agree. I felt her on what she did, because what the show also did was show the Jedi as not being perfect. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, growing up, we always knew that the Jedi were just so clean and good, and they were the light, and they were heroes. But this show really showed the flaws and how the Jedi do have some fucked up ways, like especially when Obi-Wan faked his death. You know what I'm saying? And Anakin was tricked into thinking Obi-Wan died, and when Anakin found out the truth, he was like, "What kind of shit am I in?" Which once again explains Anakin's turn. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, I guess to put it bluntly, the Jedi are kind of assholes in a way. They're kind of assholes because Ahsoka was framed for what she did, right? And only one that believed in her was Anakin. Like, he's the only one that believed in her and fought for her and brought the truth, you know, up front. Like, hey, this is what happened. But the Jedi was ready to toss her aside like she was trash. So then when it was all said and done, and she's like, you know, they're like, hey, we made a mistake. We're sorry. You can come back to the Jedi Order now. She says, nah, fuck y'all. You know, when I needed y'all ain't have my back. So nah, fuck that. You know, and she did, and I don't blame her. I would have did the same thing. I would have walked out too. You know, no like Anakin, I love you. You know, you're like my big brother, but I don't fuck with them niggas, man. You know, and Anakin, he was even like, I know what you're saying. I know. Listen, I kind of want to step. I want to get out of this. I want to get out of this myself, but I'm kind of stuck here right now. But don't worry, one day I will be evil, and you know I'll be out for real.
Well, it just goes to show, like that's something I've always loved about Star Wars is like, they do touch on it in the prequels, but like I love the idea of it's not a black and white situation. Like there is that element, you know, especially in the original trilogy. It's kind of like that the classic story of good versus evil.
Right.
But what I love is they've gotten deeper into things, especially into like the Jedi mythology and everything about them and their spirituality. Is like, sure, there are incredible, great, like wise characters in the Jedi order, or that just fall under that title, but there are also a lot of flawed characters, you know, and it's also, look at a character like General Krell. You know, we talked about a little bit about General Krell in those episodes with the clones. You know, that's a character that just kind of shows the flaws of the Jedi. But even Luke touches on it in The Last Jedi, where, you know, when Rey's talking to him about the Jedi, he like literally says like the Jedi viewed like the Force as like something that they should tap into, and that the dark side is not the path to go. But it's, you know, that he was telling Rey like, what do you see? Like, you know, what else do you see? And she's like seeing all these things. She's like life, death, and all these different things. And he's like, you know, what he's trying to really hone in on is like, there is this middle ground. You know, we've seen characters touch on that in the books and the comics, and I'm glad that they're starting to bring that into more of the storytelling, because I love the idea that it's not this thing that's solely good or solely bad. You know what I mean? And Last Jedi, he says, like the Jedi and the shit that they let Palpatine, like, I think I cut out for a second.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you're back now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Luke says like the Jedi allowed themselves in this moment of like they thought they were all powerful, and right under their noses, Palpatine came in and fucked everything up like right then and there, all at one time, because they kind of like lost sight of what they were. You know what I mean? Like, I love that I think it's Attack of the Clones that, you know, they're talking about the fact that Padme has, you know, been attacked. You know, that there's somebody trying to come and attack her, and Palpatine is trying to talk to Yoda and Mace Windu about like kind of making the Jedi into like soldiers, and he says like, you know, we're keepers of the peace, not soldiers. But then once the war begins, they all kind of became generals in this war, and their whole ideology begins to crumble. You know, it's kind of the genius behind Palpatine's whole plan is like to really make both sides look terrible while he's playing both sides beautifully. It's crazy.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah, even because at one point didn't Mace Windu say that they had to take away, I guess, Chancellor Palpatine's like emergency powers, and they would have to take over. You know, they would have to, the Jedi would have to take over. And Yoda was like, you know, to a dark place this will take us. You know.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, and he was an asshole too. Man, Mace Windu was an asshole. I'm gonna tell you who else was an asshole as far as the Jedi. Well, Mace Windu was an asshole because for some reason he just gave Anakin the hardest time.
Yeah, he really did.
For some reason, he never fucked with Anakin. Like even in Attack of the Clones, where they was like, you know, isn't the prophecy that he's the chosen one? You know, the one to bring balance to the Force. So the prophecy says.
Yeah, you know? or even in Revenge of the Sith, when, you know, Anakin literally is the one that comes and tells Mace Windu like, "Yo, I think Palpatine is the Sith Lord we've been looking for." And what's his name? Mace is like, "A Sith Lord," and he's like, he's really powerful. I'm gonna have to come with you. He goes, "No." He goes, "If what you've told me is true, you will have gained my trust. But for now, stay here." And it's like, maybe things maybe you wouldn't have lost your arm, Mace, if you would have just brought Anakin, because then he would have seen Sidious do his little twisty turn and then come in and kill everybody. That's another thing too, bro. And that scene has always pissed me off, because they fleshed them out a little bit more in the Clone Wars. Characters like Kit Fisto, who, like Jedi Masters, who just get killed in like 3 seconds by Palpatine in that scene where they were macing them. Like, Kit Fisto, one of my favorite Jedi that has been fleshed out in tons of stuff, the Clone Wars, and he just gets murked like in 2 seconds, like the second that he starts fighting.
Yeah,
shameful.
Yeah. Well, even when Order 66 happened, and you see these Jedi get killed like there was nothing. But and I think I heard Jeremy Johns talk about this. He was saying how in the Revenge of the Sith, when Order 66 happened, the Jedi got killed so easily. But at the same time, that last episode when Ahsoka was surrounded by endless clone troopers and she was deflecting everything, couldn't touch her. But here it is, these Jedi masters, the most badass of the religion, get taken out like they wasn't shit. But hey, nothing's perfect, right?
Yeah. I feel like that's just the perfect. It's weird because we're Jedi masters, but I almost feel like George, in the time when he just killed them off, didn't really anticipate the expansion that he would give their characters.
Right.
Because then there's other characters that die that we get to kind of see their deaths. Like when Order 66 goes down, there's a brief moment where we see Plo Koon. Like Plo Koon is one of the Jedi that gets killed. Yeah. And we spend a lot of time with Plo Koon in the Clone Wars. I really thoroughly enjoy his character, especially his relationship with Ahsoka. I don't know if you knew, but the same guy who voices Kenobi was the same guy who did Plo Koon.
I didn't know that.
He does those. Yeah, he does the voices really, really well.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Well, I tell you, another person who's an asshole is old man Obi-Wan Kenobi. I'm gonna tell you why. In my Kevin Hart voice, I'm gonna tell you why. So watching New Hope today, right? When Luke asks what happened to his daddy, he hesitates and says, yes, Darth Vader, who was a pupil of mine, he hunted down and killed all the Jedi. He betrayed and murdered your father. So Luke is thinking, Vader killed my daddy. So he's keeping this in the back of his mind. So now, come Empire Strikes Back, okay, I'm older now, I'm stronger, he's got his nuts, he's got hair on his chest. I'm gonna go get the dude that killed my daddy. And Obi-Wan's like, well, if you go to fight Vader, I cannot interfere. So Luke goes, gets his ass handed to him. So now here comes Return of the Jedi. Yoda's dead. Luke is all alone. Like, what do I do? Master Yoda will always be with you. Obi-Wan, why didn't you tell me? You said Vader betrayed and murdered my father. Your father? Wait, I can't. So I'm laughing when I say it. Yeah, so he's like, your father was Anakin Skywalker, but he ceased to be Anakin once he turned to the dark side. So what I told you was true from a certain point of view.
Yeah.
A certain point of view? Asshole.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Yeah.
They even recently released a Star Wars book called From a Certain Point of View, where it kind of like tells like certain stories from a different angle.
Right.
But yeah, I've always thought that's funny, man. Like the how vague they like kind of left things for Luke and his journey with like there's everything. I mean, like when you really think about Luke, man, like he thought his dad was.
Oh shit! Went out again. Damn.
His sister didn't let him know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like he's like, damn. After we tongue, like this is. He didn't have it easy.
Yeah, damn. The Streamline you need to get that shit together, man. Because you was kind of frozen for a minute. You was in carbonite for a minute.
Yeah, it's just like Wi-Fi, man. Like, I mean, my Wi-Fi is okay; it's pretty good. But if one of us is kind of having wavering Wi-Fi, then it starts to get weak.
Oh, look, that's Spectrum for you, man. My Wi-Fi fucks up all the time, man. I paid, anyways. Yeah. So I'm gonna say Clone Wars. If I give it a grade, the Rashad G review treatment, man. I give Clone Wars. I give it an A-, just because there were a lot of episodes that I thought were filler and, like really didn't have nothing to do with I guess it had to do with what was going on, but it's like the stuff that I really wanted to see, the stuff that was like really important and that I really came for, they would go to that, but then they would get away from it and go to like these droid adventures or Jar Jar adventures. And I'm like, I don't care about Jar Jar and the droids. Let's get back to this shit.
No.
So but that's just a little nitpicking criticism, but overall I really enjoyed the Clone Wars and I will watch it again definitely. And I was surprised by how dark it got sometimes, where this is a kid's show, but some people got fucked up on here, it kind of got into some adult type shit, especially with the whole Anakin getting jealous thing. So definitely an A- for Clone Wars for me, man. I love this shit, man, and thank you for recommending it. You know what I mean?
Of course,
So
man.
now
I'm happy to join.
What's that?
No, go ahead. Finish what you were gonna say.
Oh yeah, and now I'm on the Rebels. I'm 4 episodes in the Rebels, and I was hooked immediately. As soon as it came on, I was like, I'm gonna like this.
No, yeah, for sure. I'm excited for you, man. Like genuinely, I'm almost envious that you get to experience it for the first time again, the very first time. Because for me, like I got to rewatch it within the last year and some change again. Because my girlfriend hadn't seen it, and I sat her through all the Clone Wars, and she loved it, and sat her through Rebels, and she was so into it. And I think what Rebels does that's better than Clone Wars, because some people prefer the Clone Wars, which is fine because there's some great moments in there. But I think what Rebels does great is it plays off great. It's a great sequel series to the Clone Wars, while also being so. Something you should know as well is Rebels takes place about 5 years before the events of A New Hope. So kind of expect to see the kind of the groundwork for leading into A New Hope. When you finish Rebels, you got to watch Rogue One because I think I told you briefly, but the character of Chopper, their droid, the little orange droid, there's a scene in Rogue One where it's like right after they've had the meeting for like whether or not they're gonna go to Scarif to go get the Death Star plans, and Jin's trying to get them all to like kind of go with their plan, and she's trying to tell them all what her dad said, and they're all kind of like, no, we're not gonna risk our lives on this bullshit. So she walks out, and over there you can hear them call for Hera Syndulla, who's the pilot of the crew of Rebels, and then you in the background you briefly get to see Chopper just roll by, and then during the final battle sequence at the end, when they're doing that epic space sequence, for Rogue One, you see the Ghost, the Rebels ship. You get like their ship from the show. You see it fly by a couple times, and it was confirmed that it was them. So it's just cool to have that interconnective tissue that these characters are still involved in the story. But yeah, man, Rebels is great because it doesn't do what Clone Wars does, where it bounces around and tells different stories, and it's like, the Jedi are here today on Camino. There's none of that. Like it's just like it just picks up where the last one left off, you know what I mean? And so it just continues the story. So if you end on a cliffhanger with some characters on some serious shit, you can expect to pick up the next episode right there. So that's one thing I think Rebels was able to do a little bit better, was tell a more streamlined narrative that has the characters from the Clone Wars that show up. One of my favorite reoccurring characters that has gone on to become like a huge fan favorite, I loved him in the Clone Wars, and you will see him again in Rebels, is the character of Hondo Ohnaka, the pirate. Dude, that guy is, I don't know what it is, but he is so funny to me.
Yeah.
He's just so over the top and bombastic. I can't even pretend to even try to do his voice. He's just got that really big, like, over the top voice, and he shows up in Rebels. He's a bigger part of Rebels than he is of the Clone Wars, funny enough. And here, you live in Florida. At Disney, they have that new Star Wars section, the Galaxy's Edge. And for the Millennium Falcon ride, Hondo Ohnaka is like the guy who sends you on the mission. So they actually brought in the same voice actor, and they have this animatronic, this live action animatronic that's talking to the audience, and it looks really good, and it's Hondo Ohnaka. So he's a character you'll see more of, but he's kind of become like a bigger character in Star Wars, like a random side character that just kind of blew up. And I've always loved his character. So I'm looking forward to seeing you kind of like experience these with Rebels, be able to see Ahsoka fleshed out more, get to see characters like Hondo appear, as well as some other characters that I'm not going to tell you about because it's going to be a nice surprise for you to see the big characters that show up in the show. And more so than anything, I really want you to be able to kind of appreciate like Ahsoka showing up in like the Mandalorian, you know what I mean? Like that you've already seen the Mandalorian episode where she's in it, but at the end when she leans forward to that lady she was fighting and says like, where is Grand Admiral Thrawn? That plays off of the end of Star Wars Rebels. So, you'll see when you get there, but like the weight of that. And now that the season's over, it's clear that was set up for Ahsoka's show. There has been rumors for months now about there being a sequel series to Rebels that was going to kind of, because Rebels kind of like it ends with finality, but it also ends with like a new adventure beginning. But then we never get to see where that goes.
Right.
And so Mandalorian teases that. And now with the Ahsoka show that's going to be coming out with Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka, it's clear that that's going to be the follow-up to the events of Rebels, which is exciting, but it's also like, all right, now is the time. If there's ever been a time to catch up in all the Star Wars, now is the time before we get freaking 8 episodes deep. I am really excited, too, for the Bad Batch animated series that's coming out. That's going to be like a whole series just on the Bad Batch. That's exciting because I don't know if you saw. Did you see the trailer that came out for it?
No, I didn't watch the trailer yet. No.
Yeah, so it looks pretty cool. Like it looks like it's in that Clone Wars style. It looks like it's going to be pretty badass. And one of the characters that showed up in the trailer was a young Fennec Shand, which is the Asian lady from the Mandalorian that's been around with them for the last few episodes.
Cyborg lady, the one that had that's with Boba Fett, right?
Yeah, the one that's with Boba Fett. Yeah, so she was in the trailer for Bad Batch. So she's the younger version of her is going to be in that show. So I just love all the interconnectivity. You know what I mean? And when you can kind of enjoy it all. You know?
Right. Yeah, definitely. You got me even more excited now. I'm gonna watch a couple episodes after we finish this live stream of Rebels. And now that you brought up Mandalorian. We're gonna wrap this up in a minute. I know you said you had a dip. Mandalorian, what a fucking season! Holy shit! I told you though. I said the Jedi that's gonna show up is gonna be Luke. I knew it. I predicted the motherfucker. When I saw the X-wing come in, I said, could it be? And then when I saw that black robe and the hand and the green lightsaber, I said, Luke. Yes, my son was on my back. My son likes to ride me like a damn. My son thinks I'm a gorilla, so my son just climbs all over me, and he's like, Luke, this Luke. I said, yeah, it's Luke. And damn it, bad CGI. I know. I mean, well, okay, it was his face, but you could tell it was off. But they're almost there. They're almost there. They're almost there, but. It was off. It was off a little bit, but it didn't bother me. I was happy to see Luke again. You know.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's definitely noticeable CG face, the de-aging thing. But it worked. It worked for me. I think that I was worried about it, and I am looking forward to seeing how they play off of that for the next season. There's so much that they can play off of. You know.
Right.
You got to see a little bit. You got to see a little bit more of the Darksaber and Bo-Katan and those characters with everything with the Clone Wars. So when you get into Rebels, you'll get a little bit more of that, like kind of what leads you in the Mandalorian. And I also love that they brought back the same voice actress, like the same person who played the voice actress for Bo-Katan showed up in Mandalorian. But man, I really love this season of the Mandalorian. What was that you're gonna say?
Oh, okay, so the same person that voiced Bo-Katan on Clone Wars, that was the actress that played her on Mandalorian?
Yeah, same actress. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Tight. So now,
I love that continuity.
I'm listening. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I just love that continuity, and I think that's part of why I felt so weird, and I still kind of feel weird about Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka. Just not because Rosario Dawson's a bad actress. I think she's beautiful, and I think she's a fantastic actress. I think for me, it was just I'm so attached to Ashley Eckstein as Ahsoka. I mean, that's who the character is. But I will say this now: I recommend rewatching that episode of Ahsoka with the one with Ahsoka in it, the Jedi. After you watch Rebels and Clone Wars and stuff, because I think what really sold me on Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka, beyond her looking great as the character and the great action and all that jazz, what really sold me, the cadence in her voice, the way that she delivered the lines. She delivered the lines just like Ashley Eckstein.
Right.
She would take the way that she would actually like enunciate the words, the way that she would like elongate certain words, like watching those sequences. I kept rewinding and just listening to her say sentences. I didn't care about what she was saying when I was rewatching them. It was how she was saying them. And that's what really sold it for me. Though my continuity nerdy mind still kind of hates the fact that when you watch The Rise of Skywalker now, at the end when Rey is calling like all the Jedi, Ahsoka is one of them, but it's the voice of Ashley Eckstein, the original Ahsoka. But now we have this older version of Ahsoka with Rosario Dawson that doesn't really match. You're always going to have those inconsistencies with Star Wars because there's just too much of it coming out all the time. But yeah, man, I'm excited for you moving forward, man. You have so much great new Star Wars to watch, and when we do get to a place where all the new stuff that's coming out, you're already caught up all the way. We'll be able to talk about all of it because you'll be caught up. You'll know about these characters and the weight behind these moments. You know what I mean? It's kind of hard sometimes when I try to talk to certain fans about certain things. With you don't want to spoil it for them, but at the same time, it's also like the show is kind of presenting it as like, oh, you already know, you know what I mean? And so then for me, it's like, who knows, whatever. I'm kind of losing my train of thought. But that final episode was beautiful. Really, really loved it. I loved seeing Luke. I didn't expect it. It's not that I didn't expect it because it would just seem like the obvious choice. Everybody, like I saw a lot of fan theories about it. My biggest concern was that he was going to lift up the. What was that you said?
Oh no, yeah, you kind of froze. I was waiting for you to. Yeah, you kind of froze mid sentence what you were saying. Damn,
nah, you're good. Go ahead and see what you're saying. You gotta love internet connection.
Yeah, StreamYard fucking up.
Yeah, there's a delay.
God damn. What the hell was I saying? Yeah, no, I was one of the ones I said that. I said, I think it was gonna be Luke because he was the last of the Jedi, you know what I'm saying? Like Obi-Wan said there were no Jedi left, all the Jedi were hunted and killed, so Luke had to be the choice because he was the last. He's it. There's nobody else.
I will say this to that. There are more. I think that's just Obi-Wan and Yoda only knew so much. But there are other Jedi characters that it could have been. When you watch Rebels, maybe you'll get a little bit more insight. And then there's also like something else I recommend for you. I don't know if you play a lot of video games. I think we've talked about it briefly, but if you don't really, just for the sake of like, just again for expanding and keeping up with all of it, you can go on YouTube and find like what they just type in a video game of Star Wars and then type in the movie, and what they'll do is just like somebody puts together like however many hours of cutscenes from the game to tell the story. Because the campaign for Star Wars Battlefront 2 and the story mode for Jedi Fallen Order, which is one of the more recent ones, and the newest one, Star Wars Squadrons, they're all canon. And there's tons of little Easter eggs and connections to those things in the movies that I highly recommend. So like one Jedi that a lot of people were speculating it could have been, I didn't think they were going to do it, but they could have, was the character of Cal Kestis, who's the main character of Jedi Fallen Order. So he's a Jedi who's technically still around as far as we know. So it could have been him. But yeah, I won't say much more because you still have a lot to watch and partake in.
Rebels, yeah. Well, I got a question for you. A couple of questions. Okay, so the whole thing with the Darksaber, right? So Mando was about to give it to Bo-Katan, like, here, this is yours. And then Moff Gideon, he's instigating the shit to my nah. The way it works is that Darksaber has to be won in battle. So she can't accept that. And she's looking like, shit, he's right. So he was like, nah, I yielded. Here it goes. And he's like, nah, man, you have to fight for it. So now I guess when the next season of Mandalorian starts, this is going to be a beef between Bo-Katan and Mando. You know what I'm saying? Because even though he wants to give it to her, but it's like, no, I have to fight you for it or else it's not going to be mine.
Yeah, I am curious about how they're going to play that out because I doubt that Mando's going to really want to keep it or have that responsibility that comes with it. When you see Rebels, you'll get a little bit more of like kind of like the weight behind, because obviously you already know she was the last one with it before Gideon gets it. Like the show Mandalorian already tells you that, and so kind of the weight of the story leading up to her really gaining the saber. It's a powerful kind of moment for her character. It meant a lot. So that's why when I saw the first season of Mandalorian, and at the very end of the episode, of that final episode, we see that Darksaber cutting through that TIE fighter, I was like, I knew instantly. I was like, "There's only one of those, and how did this fucker get his hands on it?" So, I am really curious to see how they play off of that, because I don't think, based on the character they've set up, I keep calling him the Mandalorian, but his name is Din. People keep just calling him. Nobody calls him by his name. But
yeah,
I can't see Din really giving a shit to like kind of like have this rulership mentality, or like this this idea of kind of wanting to be like the ruler of Mandalore because of the saber. Like, I just can't see, that's not in his personality that they've set up thus far. So I am very curious to see how they go about getting that saber back into the hands of Bo-Katan. I really don't know. I can't imagine that there's going to be like a quarrel between them, but I can I won't be surprised if they end up fighting. Like, if they end up just saying, "All right, let's do this. Like let's have a genuine duel." But
that's the way she looked. She looked like she was like, "Yeah, well, he's right. I have to win this by battle, so I don't want to, but I have to fight you."
Yeah.
One way they could handle it. Have you watched wrestling? Did you watch wrestling ever growing up?
Yeah, I mean, like casually here and there, but never
casually
like
here and there. Okay, well, have you heard of the NWO, right? Hulk Hogan and Kevin Nash and all those guys. Okay, so if you remember, there was an episode of Monday Nitro where the commissioner of WCW made Hulk Hogan and Kevin Nash fight each other, even though they're on the same team, but they had to fight for the title. So here it is, Hulk Hogan and Kevin Nash are in front of each other, right? They got to fight for the title. And Kevin Nash stands there. He says, "Okay, let's do it." So Hulk Hogan puts his finger on his chest. Kevin Nash goes, "Ugh," and falls out. Hogan pins him. 1, 2, 3. Maybe they can go that route. Okay, we have to battle for. Okay, just touch me. I lost. Take it.
Yeah. I assumed that maybe that will be a direction they end up going, is like that, just that Din ends up like kind of just giving into the fight, you know what I mean? Just losing on purpose. But then it makes me wonder if Bo-Katan is going to accept that, you know what I mean? Or if she's really going to want to like have a genuine duel, like if she's going to feel cheated out of like the pride and the honor. Because the Mandalorian are people of pride, obviously, you know what I mean? And we see now that there are these different directions that you can have that in, you know, like he was raised as a foundling, and so he was raised with this kind of this honor code as far as like leaving the helmet on, and like that, like when he saw Cobb Vanth in that first episode of the season with the armor on, he was like kind of like, "You better take that shit off," like you know. But then when he meets Bo-Katan, she's like, "Oh, I'm just gonna take my helmet off," you know. Like they have these different levels of like kind of internal pride. So I have a feeling she won't be so easy to just kind of give the saber to like that. Like if he just tries to, you know, kind of just lose on purpose. But I am very much excited to see what they do, man. And I mean, now with the book of Boba Fett being set up, and all these different shows that are coming out, man, and the movies that are coming out, like we're living in an amazing time. Funny enough, the one I think I'm the most excited for outside, I mean, I'm excited for all of it, but I'm really excited to see the Acolyte. The Acolyte is one I'm definitely super excited for, because it's supposed to touch on the final portion of the High Republic, which is a brand new era that they're introducing. Now in January, the new books and comics for the High Republic era are coming out, and it takes place about like 200 to 300 years prior to the events of the Phantom Menace. And it's supposed to be like a time where like the Jedi were like adventurers, like they weren't like necessarily like they were keepers of the peace, but they were kind of more like adventurers. Like they would go out to they kind of describe some of the stories as kind of like in Indiana Jones meets kind of Jedi stories, where they were kind of like free roamers, kind of like out there to like explore and go on these like adventures in dunes and caves and all that kind of stuff. So I'm excited to see that era, because like the clothing that the Jedi wear is a little bit different. The style of their lightsabers is a little bit different. So I feel like that's going to be it's just nice to know that we're going to actually get a TV show that's going to kind of be part of a different era of Star Wars. You know what I mean?
No, I'm interested. Oh, we got a person there. We're going nuts over this episode. Can only imagine people see Obi-Wan and Vader go at it again in the Kenobi series. Yeah.
I am very curious about that for sure. I almost don't want them to fight. Like I don't want them, like a lot of people think like that's where it's going to go, but I just don't want it to cheapen that line from A New Hope. When I left you, I was but the learner. Now I am the master. Yeah.
Only a master of evil, Darth.
Yeah, like I hope that if anything, they kind of see each other from maybe a distance. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like maybe like there's kind of like see something from a distance, or maybe they touch on something kind of like the Kylo Ren Rey kind of connection of the Force, where they kind of have some sort of like internal quarrel or discussion, because I feel like if they meet again, it just kind of like it wouldn't ruin it for me, but it just feels like I feel like them meeting again shouldn't happen. You know what I mean? Like, because even like, no, what were you gonna say? I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, yeah. Even when Vader first felt him in A New Hope, he was like, "I sense something, a presence I haven't felt since." You know,
exactly. That's exactly what I was gonna say. It was like that line is like, you know, since what? You know what I mean? Like what? Since 5 minutes ago? Like that. I don't want it to feel like that. You know what I mean? Like.
Oh yeah. And going back to Mandalorian, I want to ask you, what's your thoughts about, because there's been some controversy about what's the name, Pedro Pascal playing the Mandalorian, that there were rumors that he left mid-season because he was pissed off that he wasn't allowed to take his helmet off, even though he's had 2 full scenes in the show, which was more than last season where he took his helmet off. But allegedly, he was pissed off by the fact that, you know, Bo-Katan and the other Mandalorians were able to take their helmets off, and everybody gets to show their face. Even Boba Fett gets to show his face, but it's like, damn, I can't show my face. So there was rumors about that, and he's not coming back. He threw a fit on set, and so, I mean, you think there's any truth to that? Do you think he's coming back to play Mandalorian?
Yeah, he's definitely coming back. I think he would be a fool as number one, as like a Star Wars actor, and just like I think he knew what he was signing up for. I actually haven't heard any of that you're saying, but I can't imagine that he'd be really upset about it, because I mean, I was like I said, I was also at the panel in Star Wars Celebration, the last one last year in Chicago for the Mandalorian, and I got to see the first 5 minutes of the show, like only everybody who was in the panel, like we were the only ones that saw anything until they dropped the trailer months later for the public. So he was hyped, man. Like, he was there on stage hyped. Like, when he was talking about the audition process, and he just said, like, when they told him, like, yeah, you're going to be the Mandalorian, he was hyped. So you could just tell he was so excited to be a part of the show. I'm sure there's going to be tension and stuff that rises on set. But I can't imagine that's not the case. And, you know, the sad reality of the situation is that he's not always the Mandalorian. You know what I mean? Like, I remember with the first season, I thought that he was in the suit every scene, but it turns out there's 2 other guys that play him. So he does the voice. You know, he is Din. But I think Clint Eastwood's son is one of the stunt doubles, and then there's another guy. So most of the action sequences are not Pedro Pascal. It's like they got other people in the suit who act out the character. I mean, you know, we've seen that in Star Wars 100 times though. One person voices it, and like another person does the body. Like, I think it was just yesterday they announced that Jeremy Bulloch, who played Boba Fett in the original
R.I.P.
trilogy, passed away. I actually got to meet him a few times, man, and he was just a sweet, sweet man. Like, I met him a couple times, and he was already older by the time I met him, and he was just like a really nice, sweet guy with a nice little soft British voice, which typically is the case with a lot of these Star Wars actors, like especially the ones who end up getting like voiced over, like David Prowse, who played he was like, he had a very sweet like British accent when I met him, same kind of thing. Same with Peter Mayhew, who played Chewbacca. Ray Park, who plays Darth Maul, super imposing looking when he's in the makeup, but has like this very like light and vibrant kind of like, you know, English accent. And it's just kind of like a funny thing about Star Wars, just having all these actors who do the voice but aren't always inside the costume. I don't even know where I was going with that, but yeah, I think Pedro Pascal would definitely be.
Yeah, well, I mean, what you're saying, because he really wasn't. I mean, so if let's say for the sake of argument, he does leave the show, being that there are other characters that play him, do you think it will hurt it?
For sure. I think that his voice and his face is now synonymous with the character. I think at this point he has leverage as far as like making money. They aren't gonna, for continuity's sake, they would not let him leave. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I can't imagine that they would let him leave. And plus, like I said, I haven't heard any of that you're talking about, so I have to imagine some of it's rumor. Because I feel like it would have been blown a little bit more out of proportion. He seems really, really excited. I follow him on Twitter, so like after every episode or something, he's always like kind of like engaging with the fans, and he seems just very happy and excited to be a part of Star Wars. So I really can't imagine that he would be leaving anytime soon. You know what I mean? Especially when you've had actors like John Boyega who have spoken like very openly about like his disagreements with Disney, but he still had a job, you know?
Right. Yeah, well, okay, well, that's good news then. Yeah, I mean, look it up. If you Google Pedro Pascal, unhappy with Mandalorian, there'll be some articles that'll come up where they talked about how he wasn't happy with the show. But yeah, it's probably just all rumors. I hope it is, because I like him as that character, and I'm used to him now as the voice of that character. So, I definitely don't want to see him go anywhere. That's like taking away James Earl Jones as Vader. You know what I'm saying? James Earl Jones is the voice of Darth Vader, which he was played by 3 people. James Earl Jones did the voice. David Prowse was the imposing figure, and then I guess the guy that did the fight coordination, he played Vader in the fight with Luke. In Empire and Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, well, then there's also
you probably knew, huh?
Then there was also the actor Sebastian.
Oh yeah, that played Anakin. Yeah.
Who played like Anakin, like when the helmet comes off. So I can't remember his last name right off the top of my head right now. But I can't
remember either. Yeah. Tell your sister you were right. Yeah. I'm like, I remember watching it as a kid. I'm like, that's Vader.
Well, I think that's
after seeing 3 movies of Vader being badass, I'm like, that's it.
Yeah, well, that's part of why George always explained that the prequels had such much, like a lot more kind of fast-paced action, was because like his kind of response to that was like, in the original trilogy, we just saw old men fighting with lightsabers, or a young guy that was trained by old guys. You know what I mean? So it's like now we get to see them in their prime when you go back to the prequels.
Oh yeah. And I want to say this real quick too before we wrap it up. I was expecting, when the last episode ended, right? Because Grogu reminds me so much of Gizmo, I was expecting this moment. I think you know where I'm going with this. I was expecting this moment where they had to say goodbye to each other, and I'm fighting back the tears, right? And they're embracing for the last time. He has to give him over to Luke. I was expecting a bye, Billy. From Gremlins. I was expecting Grogu to speak and have a bye, Billy moment. But if that did happen, I'd have been a little bitch. I ain't gonna lie. I would have cried my ass off.
I'm not gonna lie. I also thought that he was gonna say something. It felt like there was this open air for a moment of him, like where the camera was panned on him, where I thought, oh, we're gonna finally hear him say something. Like even if it's like in the traditional like Yoda backwards kind of speaking. I thought it was gonna happen, but yeah, man, it didn't happen.
It didn't. But it's still oh man, it hit me.
So good, man.
Me and my son were watching. I said, you know what? I can't bitch up in front of my son. I said, don't cry. But I did have a tear forming up, right? So I'm like, yeah. I said, allergies messing up. Yeah, my allergies. because we're so used to seeing them together since season 1, and it's like, damn, where does he go from here now? Because Grogu was such a big part of his life, and I'm pretty sure he's going to be having some withdrawal syndrome or whatever afterwards. Heartbreaking. I'm about to cry now just thinking about it.
Yeah, I'm definitely really curious to see where they take the next show, the next season. I wonder if there's going to be a time gap. I wonder if there's going to be like kind of a jump to the future. Because the reality of the situation is we know that even though it's, this great triumphant ending of Luke taking Grogu, we already know because of The Last Jedi that all goes to shit and that Kylo kills everybody. So people are like, oh, is Kylo really going to have killed Grogu? There's no way. Like they're going to give it, they're going to do what Star Wars does best, which is just show us something from a different, from a different a certain point of view.
Yeah. A certain point of view.
Yeah, exactly. And and I'm sure that they'll give us, some sort of other story, but it's like he's going off with Luke, but we already know that that's going to go south. But there's still some time between then and now. I think the Mandalorian takes place about 10 years after the events of Return of the Jedi, and The Force Awakens is 30 years after the events of the Return of the Jedi. So somewhere within the next 10 years and some change is where Kylo ends up going bad. So there's still time for Grogu to get out of there before shit goes down.
Yeah, well, he could also be like the next Ahsoka, where all this stuff is going on, and he's in the cut somewhere, within the Disney trilogy, but we just don't know it. And then when we see him again, it's like, okay, well, he was there the whole time during Last Jedi, or he was there the whole time during Force Awakens, but he was out doing other shit.
Yeah, exactly.
So they might go that route. And even the end credit scene. So the Book of Boba Fett coming December 2021. So yeah, I missed it because you was like, did you see the post credit scene? I was like, post credit scene. Wait a minute. And I went back and looked, and I said, oh my God, your boy became the new Jabba. I forgot his name. Only thing I remember about him was, Jabba no bother.
Yeah.
I remember about him.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, he became the new Jabba. Okay.
Yeah, Bib Fortuna. I've always loved that character from Return of the Jedi, and just like you said, like those different lines that he says, the way he looks, the way he moves his hands.
Right.
And what I liked is that they when you see Bib Fortuna briefly in the Phantom Menace at the pod racing scene where they show Jabba up at the top, Bib Fortuna standing next to him, but he's just like literally he's just standing there. Like that is the epitome of like just a random cameo for fans at the time. And in that moment, he was played by Matthew Wood. And Matthew Wood is he's worked on pretty much every Star Wars film from the prequels on as a sound editor, but he's also the voice of General Grievous, and he did the voice of the droids in the Clone Wars. So for that scene, I actually looked it up to see if it was still him. They did bring back Matthew Wood to play Bib Fortuna, which is a callback to him playing him for the Phantom Menace. And obviously he's really, I've met Matthew Wood a couple times. Super nice guy, like super nice guy. I met him. I actually got a photo op with the cast of Clone Wars at the last Star Wars Celebration. But he was actually walking right through the hall, like the floor of I mean, there's diehard Star Wars fans in there that would pick you out in 2 seconds. And I just saw him walking super casually, and I was like, nobody is noticing that fucking General Grievous is walking right here. So I just walked up to him. And I feel like I kind of scared him. I just walked up next to him. I was like, hey Matt. I was like, I'm a huge fan. Can I get a picture? He goes, yeah, as long as you can do it as we keep walking. I'm like, yeah. But he was super nice.
Okay.
And so it was cool to see him again as Bib Fortuna. And yeah, he just that's the end of Bib Fortuna after all these years, dead.
Right. Yeah, damn. And rest in peace to the fallen Star Wars actors, man. We like the past few years, man, we lost Chewie, we lost R2, Vader, Boba Fett. I'm like, damn, Carrie Fisher, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, God, it's just rough, dropping like flies, man.
Man, left and right, man. It's like a it's a sad reality of life, man. Where like at this point, I can't believe Star Wars has been out as long as it has been. You know what I mean? Like even for me, it's like I was kind of born right in the middle of Star Wars' lifespan. You know what I mean? Compared to where it is now, and it's just crazy. But I am very blessed, honestly, because I've been such a diehard Star Wars fan to have been a part of so many experiences. To have met, I've actually been thinking about. I'm trying to find some old pictures I have on some old CDs back in the day, back when people used to save pictures on CDs. But I wanted to make a video on all of the Star Wars actors that I've been privileged to meet, because I did meet Kenny Baker, who played R2-D2. I've met Billy D. Williams. I met Carrie Fisher. And that was a crazy moment when I met Carrie Fisher, because they kind of like had you go through the line and you had what you wanted to sign. And then if you wanted it personalized, you had to like kind of write your name on like a notepad that they kind of attached to whatever it is that you were getting signed to kind of make it quicker for the actor. And obviously you only have so much time. But when I met Carrie Fisher and she like, she was Anthony. And so she read out the name and then she starts talking to me. And I mean, I had like a good, like probably like 45 to 50 seconds with Carrie Fisher. It was brief, man, but it was so nice to meet her. Same with Mark Hamill. I've met Mark Hamill 3 times now. One time on his way to the bathroom at Disney World here, which was crazy. But he just stopped to talk. He was on his way to the bathroom. He just stopped to talk, and I was kind of like, I'm talking to fucking Luke Skywalker. But yeah, I got to meet Peter Mayhew. I got to meet David Prowse. I got to meet Jeremy Bulloch. And I'm really grateful that I got to meet these actors before they passed, man, because it's just, it's crazy. One of these days we're going to lose Mark Hamill. We're going to lose Harrison Ford, and it's just going to feel devastating. I never would have thought that we would have lost Carrie Fisher. Like, David Prowse, Jeremy Bullock, Peter Mayhew, as tragic as it sounds, like it doesn't surprise me. Like these actors are up there, you know what I mean? Like one of these days the Ian McDiarmid will pass, you know. But yeah, man, it's super sad to know that these icons of this thing that we love so much are so close to these you know ages that they could it's any day, you know what I mean? Like you just never know. It's crazy.
Yeah, well, look, I grew up on these motherfuckers, so like even my heroes like Sly and Arnold, and you know, I grew up on these guys, and they're up there, you know.
Yeah.
So, I wish I could meet some of them too. Like I wish I could meet, you know, Mark Hamill and Harrison. Well, Harrison Ford really kind of disowned. He doesn't really want to have anything to do with Star Wars, does he? Like I heard he's really distant.
Yeah, well, he's not like Mr. Like he won't be doing signings. Like Mark Hamill still does signings. Like Mark Hamill, like when he's out there, like he chews up the scenery of being Mark Hamill. Like I've gone to so many conventions and panels where he is like the gonna be on stage. And he comes out anytime, like Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker, and he will come out like fully doing like a show. He'll come out with the lightsaber. He'll do the stance. He comes out with a serious face, doing the Force like to the audience. He's all in it. You know what I mean? He's in for the show and the ride. Like Harrison Ford, I think because his career has been so much more than Han Solo. He's just the kind of actor who he doesn't really care to be like locked down mentally by this one role. So, you know, that's just how he is. But I will say this, one of the most epic days of my entire life that I will always cherish was 2017. I waited overnight from 5 or 6, I was probably like 4 p.m. the night prior. Stayed outside overnight, or we ended up getting brought inside eventually, but waited overnight for the 40th anniversary panel at Star Wars Celebration here in Orlando. Like a 2017, and you know they hyped it up that it was going to be the first panel of the convention, and it was going to be big. Like, and there was rumors because I have a lot of friends who are in like the 501st or like part of these Star Wars organizations, so they were hearing rumors. So there was rumors that Harrison Ford was in the building and all this kind of stuff, and that this 40th anniversary panel was going to be crazy. So after I don't know, like 16, 17 hours of waiting in line, sleeping on the floor. We get into this panel, man, and it was just epic. Everybody came out. Like Carrie Fisher had actually just passed, so they did like a video on her. And this was the moment that I knew that my relationship with my girlfriend was top notch, was because I had shown her Star Wars up to this point. She loved it. She was really getting into it. This was her first Star Wars celebration, like her first Star Wars fan event, where she got to really meet these diehard Star Wars fans that put in all this time into their outfits and their costumes and are there to just love this franchise. And then they're showing the tribute video to Star Wars, and it ended with this tribute to Carrie Fisher. And I was all teary-eyed, and the whole room was teary-eyed. And I look over at my girlfriend, and she's teary-eyed. And I just had this moment of just pride of just like, she gets it. She finally gets why this franchise means so much to everybody. But yeah, the panel was amazing, and George Lucas came out. And they started doing them as slowly over time. But you had J.J. Abrams came out with Kathleen Kennedy, like the people who were involved in Star Wars at the time. You're like, okay, this makes sense. And then George Lucas came out, and then Mark Hamill came out, and then Harrison Ford came out, and Hayden Christensen came out, and then Ian McDiarmid came out, and then like everybody you could think of came out. Then they had like video recordings pop up of Samuel L. Jackson and Liam Neeson, and then the cherry on top after all that craziness was at the very end. That like literally you think that everybody thought the panel was ending, and they were kind of like telling everybody to have a nice day, and then the stage dimmed out, and this curtain on the side of the stage opens up, and there's fucking John Williams with an orchestra, and we got a private like he played like probably about like a good 20 minutes of Star Wars music just right there for everybody. Dude, I mean, I remember like the screaming, the uproar of excitement. You got to go to a Star Wars celebration, man. Whenever a Star Wars celebration comes back to Florida, you have to go.
Yeah, I want to go, man. Dude, John Williams is the GOAT, bro. Like that. I love John Williams, man.
Amazing, dude. Star Wars Celebration is one of those things. I think a lot of people get wrapped up in like seeing people argue and stuff online.
Mm-hmm.
When you go to Star Wars Celebration, there's none of that, man. Like the people who are willing to go stay in lines like that, or
Mm-hmm.
go and getting the costume. Like it's just everybody's there to just have a good time and love Star Wars. It's a beautiful experience. I don't even know how I got on that tangent, but
nah, bro, bro, you literally like you took me there, man. Like I'm listening to you, like, and I'm there, and I'm like, yeah, I gotta go to one of these.
it's epic, man. It's 100% worth it, man. It's worth every dollar, worth every second. It's some of the best memories. I don't know if you and I were friends at the time, but if you go to my channel, I have a playlist called Star Wars Celebration, because that's just when I had the channel. I hadn't had the channel before that, but the Star Wars Celebration that was in Chicago, I did a vlog of each of the days. And it got to show a little bit of what it was like. And I met John Boyega there. I met a bunch of actors. It was a really cool experience, man. I would next time it comes to Florida, bro, and if I can score tickets and you can score tickets, or if I can score extra tickets, we got to go together, bro. It's an amazing experience.
Oh yeah, nah, definitely. I'm there, man. Like I know I would geek out if I ever met like Billy D or Mark Hamill. Like I grew up on these guys, man. So I know I would probably. Yeah, I would definitely have a fanboy moment, where I might make it weird.
I don't think you can make it weirder than a lot of these people do make it weird.
Yeah.
Man. Some of these fans, at the end of the day, as much as I love Star Wars, I think we can both acknowledge that there are those people who put the geek in geek, bro, but you gotta love it, bro.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, look here, man. I don't want to keep you long, because I know you say you gotta go to work in the morning, man. So I appreciate you being on this live with me.
Of course, man.
Even though a lot of people didn't come on, but it's okay. It's in the archives. It's on the channel. So I can go back and watch this and revisit this, and great conversation, because I don't have anybody to talk Star Wars with, man. My daughter right now, she's just starting Clone Wars, so I can't say shit until she gets caught up.
Yeah.
And here in Sanford, nobody really fucks with Star Wars here, man. So thank you, because I had so much built up that I wanted to say, but I'm like, ugh. I could just sit there and talk to myself, but I'll look crazy. So yeah, definitely thank you, man. Thank you.
Yeah, I know what you mean, man. Yeah, you're welcome, dude. I love talking Star Wars. I could talk Star Wars for the rest of my life. And this is why I started a YouTube channel, was to meet people like you, was to be able to ramble my thoughts in front of a camera for however long, and then throw it out there and just see what people say, man. Because at the end of the day, like, it seems like sometimes like your casual everyday friends or people around you, like sometimes they just don't get it, man. They just don't get it. They're just movies to them. They're just stories. And I always joke around. I call them like stories about wizards in space with laser swords. But it's so much more than that. And I get it, man. So I'm more than happy to talk Star Wars with you anytime. I appreciate you having me on, man.
All right, definitely. Well, we might have to do this again after I get done with Rebels, because I'm pretty sure I'm gonna have a lot to say about that too. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, man.
Yeah. So wrapping this up, man. Well, I guess I did just wrap it up. I did just thank you and all that. So yeah, we about to jump off this live to the one person that watched. Thank you. And so Perez, man, you have a good night, my brother. And that's about it. I'm gonna take some more shots tonight.
Sounds good, bro. Thank you.
All right. Now, how do I end this bitch? Okay, end broadcast. All right.